Check the 40 show. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty. Why you acting all gaudy? This ain't a pod, this a party. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty. Why you acting all gaudy? This ain't a pod, this a party. About 120 feet. Running game every week. About 100 what they keep. Fantasies, Egyptian cheats. If there was only a way to test this, check this. Listen to the 40 for your next shit. Flexes, FF is what they obsess with. Checklist complete, I guess you can't best us. Rest of the fantasy community, go ahead and book the L when they lose to me. It's nothing new to me, I'm just the dude you see. Biggest difference is I listen regularly. Yeah, I will not lose 14 my dudes. I will not lose 14 my dudes. Go. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty. Why you acting all gaudy? This ain't a pod, this a party. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty, yeah. Check the 40 shorty. Why you acting all gaudy? This ain't a pod, this a party.
We are back. Welcome to another episode of the Fantasy 40 Podcast. I am John DeBari with my co-host Matt Walker. We may or may not be joined by our third wheel, Mr. Andrew Burke, who is MIA. But we're going to do a little recap here of the NFL draft and its impact for fantasy. Today is Tuesday, so had a couple days to let everything settle in, get some opinions around the Twitter sphere and the internet, and we'll take it from there and give you our takes on it. What did you think of this draft as a whole, Walk?
Yeah, we let it marinate for a few days. Let's just talk about the actual draft. I loved it. I was such a fan of the setup that you cut the BS of like this kind of live component, make it like a fantasy draft, where someone comes up, announces a pick, you move on to the next one. I mean, ESPN did far too much shining light on the negativity in these athletes' lives.
You could only get drafted if someone died.
I mean, it was doom and gloom. I mean, I thought they'd be trying to present positivity and optimism and stuff like that, but who am I, at the end of the day? But I liked the setup of it all. I was glued Thursday and Friday night. I kind of, at a glance, during the day Saturday, because a lot of why we care happens on day one and day two. But I really dug the setup, to be totally honest with you. How about you?
Yeah, what's funny, you'd mentioned just how it's set up like a fantasy draft. Everyone's just making one pick and that's it. Not a big bunch of showmanship. It's just funny comparing it to what it was supposed to be here in Vegas, where people were going to be taking a fucking boat ride out to the podium. So we went from podium boat rides to Goodell sitting in his basement with a green screen. So yeah, it was. I was disappointed there were not more fuck ups. Like I was really hoping to watch somebody's internet crash or the screen going out. There were a few goofy kind of things going on in the background here and there, but it wasn't. As a pessimist, it wasn't the massive disaster I was hoping for.
No, one thing stood out to me though above all else. Did you ever see a draft clock on the TV? You recall?
Yeah, I watched NFL Network. It was in the bottom left.
Okay, I watched ESPN. Never a draft clock on there. I assumed that they kind of went with a loose clock to these teams so that nothing tragic happened if there was an internet outage or delay in conveying the message. I thought they were a little looser, but I didn't watch the NFL Network. I was ESPN, and I cannot recall a time of looking and seeing, oh shit, these guys only got 10 seconds left. They better get this pick in. There was a lot of the pick is in and then a tremendous lag before they actually disclosed the pick. So
yeah, I don't recall seeing one on day 3 because what do they got? 5 minutes of pick anyway.
Rapid fire.
I don't remember seeing it on day 3, but I'm positive it was there on day 1 and 99% sure day 2 was on NFL Network.
Yeah, all right. Well, good good. Kudos NFL Network, I guess, on that. I thought I captured something in my eye, but it's funny because a lot of the trades happened on day 3 as well. There's a lot more wheeling and dealing on that shorter clock, so that's interesting unto itself. But and then the other thing I heard was pretty much to a man, all of these GMs and head coaches and all said that they actually were fine with the process and enjoyed it by and large because they weren't able to grind and be isolated and 24/7 in the facilities and stuff for months. Like you saw, like every one of these guys, their families are in the pictures and, they're high-fiving their kids. And that was awesome, man. Like and they're talking about like a better work-life balance. Like I don't need to be doing this 20 hours a day. Like I had dinner with my family all week this week leading up to the draft type thing. And you just saw like the joy on these people's faces and you realize like how much unnecessary shit. And it's just like this is just like a snapshot of life of you start realizing like there's so much BS, and filler and what we think we need to do day to day. But when you get down to it, you can get shit done.
Yeah. I didn't care about seeing their kids.
That did not shock me one bit, John.
I wanted the impression that they were still grinding. I wanted more screens around and some guy with a pencil behind his ear and shuffling papers. I didn't like, some 6-year-old there getting a high five in his, fucking Titan sweatshirt or Panthers hat, whatever.
Well, listen, if we're talking about the Titans, then we got to talk about Vrabel and whatever the hell he had going.
So I missed it. I missed it live. I saw the tweets. People were talking about it. I didn't see it actually happen. But then I shared the picture after. I'm sure everyone has seen it since then. If you zoom in the back left corner, there's a mirror, and there's some poor kid, camera side, whatever you would call stage right. If we were on an actual stage, he's got caught taking a dump in the background. There's some underage kid taking a shit in Vrabel's background.
I mean, the larger issue there is why is the door not closed? I mean, we all have these half baths. I mean, or some people more than others that are, kind of in obvious places throughout the main room of your house. But I mean, just practice some discretion. I mean, it's not even that he didn't know he was on camera. I mean, just close the door.
Yeah.
Just some moral decency. There was other people in that place. He wasn't alone in the house where you're just like, I can do whatever I want. I got to close the door. I got to wear pants if I don't feel like it. But yeah, he stole the thunder of those two random, I guess, Vrabel kids, I would assume. I don't even know what that one outfit is. I must be out of loop. But the other kid was rocking a strange dyed mullet with a jersey and some, I think, white ankle, the white friggin' tube socks on, or something was going on. I mean, they put a lot of effort into what they were going to look like when the Titans were on the clock, and just shows you what isolation can do to some people.
I don't think it had anything to do with isolation. However, let's get to the important stuff here. What'd you think of the draft? Who your big risers and fallers? I guess we'll kind of go position by position. Quarterback is quick and easy. We'll get that out of the way. Anybody you particularly like where they landed? Dislike? Any big risers or fallers for you at quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, my thought with this is let's knock out quarterback and then tight end, I guess, and then we'll get into the fun because we can rapid fire through this. Joe Burrow, the most obvious 101 in almost the history of 101s. I like the Bengals landing spot. They went and added, surprise, spoiler alert, T. Higgins in the top of the second round, who I'm not crazy about, but you're just giving more weapons to Burrow. I think they'll grow together. He still has, as of right now, A.J. Green, Tyler Boyd, John Ross, Joe Mixon. Their offensive line's getting healthier. They're getting Jonah Williams back. Joe Burrow is in a good spot, in my opinion. I think the Bengals are going to be a pretty decent offense this year. Tua went to the Dolphins. I really thought Dolphins were going up to 2 to get him all along. I put out tweets saying, who do you think is going to go Tua? And people didn't understand that I was being somewhat humorous about my take. But he did end up with the Dolphins. They didn't even have to move. So kudos to them. I like the landing spot. I hope he sits out for a year. Let Ryan Fitzpatrick sling it around for one more year and bring us all some joy. Tua can grow. They're not winning anything in 2020 anyway. Herbert goes right after him, 6 to the Chargers. That was like the most obvious spot. All these to me were black and white obvious. Herbert was going to the Chargers.
Pretty chalky start.
And then it gets a little interesting. Your boy Jordan Love goes to the Green Bay Packers in the first round of pick 26, looking eerily reminiscent of Aaron Rodgers when he was drafted at, I believe, 24.
Yeah.
The year, and I think even Brett Favre was similar to Aaron Rodgers' age, like within a year of what Aaron Rodgers is right now. It's very strange how history is repeating itself here. So you're going to have to think that Jordan Love's 2 to 3 years best case away from seeing the field. I mean, but they clearly wanted to prioritize this guy. The Packers said they had it on good knowledge that someone was trading up into the early second, I believe is what I heard, to take him, and they wanted him. So they didn't want to wait until their second round pick to take him or try and move up in the second. Still not rationale in my opinion. And then I guess the last one of early relevance is Jalen Hurts going to my Eagles at 221 to, I guess, back up Carson Wentz, who does have an injury history. But before we started recording, you were talking about how it's already things coming out that they intend to use him different ways. They better. I mean, you got to get some return on a second round pick, whether he's in the backfield, doing some
the new Taysom Hill.
Yeah, I mean, he's not nearly as big as Taysom Hill, but he is pretty electric with the ball in his hands. Give him some rushing downs work. I don't know how he would be even catching the ball. I don't think I've seen that. Taysom Hill looks like pretty adept at doing it, but Hurts still has to develop as a passer as well. I'm just confused by that pick. He has little to no dynasty value. I took him in the mid-third of a super flex startup, and I was just like, I guess I'll take him here. You're almost banking on injury for him to be of any value. You can't start Hurts if he's playing the Taysom Hill role.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said. I was excited in this draft for Love and Hurts because I knew in the super flexes where I picked early or didn't pick early, the top Burrow, Tua, and Herbert I was never going to get a chance at. And then I was like, well, hopefully Love and Hurts fall somewhere where they could get a starting job in the next year or so, or maybe, behind an injury-riddled guy and they could get in there. And for fantasy, I hate both of these spots. To me, they both fall below Jacob Eason, who, oddly enough, he's probably got the fourth clearest path to a starting job between the top three. So Eason got bumped up big time for me. Hurts, who I liked, he was my QB2 going into the draft. I was like, man, I'd love to see where he goes and maybe get on the, I was hoping, fingers crossed, that he maybe went to the Chargers in the second if they didn't take Herbert so early. And my thought was, he could get on the field halfway through the year if they suck with Tyrod or a year from now. But yeah, him landing with the Eagles and then them talking about him having this weird Taysom Hill role is just awful. Like that's the worst case scenario because he doesn't have a path to being a quarterback. At least Love has the inside job on taking over when they move on from Rodgers. Hurts doesn't. He's going to be some goofy gadget player, which does have fantasy relevance, but that just kicks you right in the balls as a Superflex owner.
If anything, and to your point, I agree with you in response accordingly. Jalen Hurts, if he is Taysom Hill, all that does is hurt Carson Wentz. Like if he throws a couple passes a game, if he is used on some gadgety type plays, short of these slip screens or if they're going to use Hurts in that, it's going to actually diminish Wentz's value as well. If him being on the field, it's not going to help him. Hurts isn't that type of offensive weapon, that they're going to be able to deploy and, it's going to be a boon for Wentz's value. He's going to lose a couple passes a game. They might try and run it with Hurts a little bit more than obviously they would with Wentz at this point in time. They'll probably do a bunch of that. Like you're going to break huddle and Wentz is going to be flexed out as a wide receiver. Hurts is going to take direct snaps and run it or, maybe they do some RPOs with him. It's going to be painful and inconsistent at the end of the day. And I'm at a loss as for why we did it. Yeah, he couldn't have landed in a worse spot. And I'm an Eagles fan. There's so much more we needed and could have gotten at 221 than a gadgety backup quarterback that I hope never sees the field. I mean, that's literally the dream is that Wentz is healthy and plays 16 games for the foreseeable future. And that means this is a wasted pick. But you mentioned Jacob Eason, and right before we recorded, I was telling you that I was targeting him early in the third round of a super flex and missed out on him by one spot where I took Hurts at 305. And listen, Phil Rivers on a 1-year deal with the Colts. Eason got fourth round capital. It's not the worst possible, landing spot for any starting any rookie quarterback at this point to learn a year behind Phillip Rivers in Reich's system. I mean, Eason's just maddening to watch because he has a great arm, but he has decision-making problems, and that doesn't play well in the NFL. But learning from Rivers under Reich, getting a year where he's not starting, I agree with you. Eason jumps above Hurts for sure, and probably has to get above Jordan Love in Superflex drafts as well. I believe I heard you say he's your 4, and Love and Hurts are your 5 and 6. I can't argue it. He has more opportunity in the foreseeable future. I'm not trying to sit on Jordan Love for 3 years in a Superflex league.
No. And then was there anybody else that later in the draft, like that Colts landing spot, that was, I had my fingers crossed because I loved Anthony Gordon, and I was shocked he went undrafted. But that was where I was like, maybe the Colts throw a late dart on Anthony Gordon. So just replacing Gordon with Eason, and Eason obviously is a better pedigree than Gordon, even though Gordon had a more productive 1 year of starting. But yeah,
Gordon went to the Seahawks, right? As a UDFA.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't have all the UDFAs here, and I'm not going to pretend to know all of them. I just know he was a Washington State guy and ended up
he went to Seattle.
In Seattle, which is the least shocking thing ever. But guys like Jake Luton and Nate Stanley, who I've never heard of, to be totally honest with you, and they're from big programs, they got drafted, and like an Anthony Gordon doesn't go. Says a lot about him. And I heard Gordon was a dink and dunk guy. Like he had like one of like the lowest like depth of targets on his passes.
Yeah. I had Stanley at 10 going into the draft. I mean, I thought he'd get picked up somewhere. He's
good for you.
He's no one special. The only one that's interesting to me is Cole McDonald going to Tennessee. I'm still not a Tannehill believer. Him landing there, I mean, they paid Tannehill, so he's got at least a year or two leash before they cut bait if he ends up reverting to his old self. I like McDonald as a project if you're throwing darts, if you're in a super deep league and you got 7-round rookie draft or something like that. I don't mind McDonald as a super late dart throw.
Yeah, I know.
Nobody's.
Yeah, I knew you were a fan of him. The only other guy we didn't speak of was Jake Fromm, who sat and watched 3 days of him in his living room laughing with his buddies as team after team passed him over. He did end up in Buffalo in the 5th round. Like he looks like a good backup. Like that's not saying anything for Superflex, no relevance in Dynasty, but I think it was a pretty solid pick by the Bills. You got a running quarterback. I think there's a higher propensity of running quarterbacks get injured. Why not bring in this guy late who, took the starting job from Jacob Eason, if I can recall correctly, during their time in Georgia, which is what led Eason to transfer. And Fromm had an unspectacular career in Georgia, but that's I don't know that that's saying that much of a knock on him personally. But yeah, he was the only other one. But listen, we've already been on quarterback too long. And I think it's really a 3-man race, even in Superflex. You hope Eason is something, but he could be nothing. If he doesn't show them what they need in a year, they're either going to dip down into free agency again, or they're going to draft someone else next year. They're in win now. That's why they signed Rivers. They're going for it this year. So Eason could be a blip on the radar. And yeah, unfortunate for Love and Hurts. They landed in two of the worst spots, in my opinion. For that draft capital, because Aaron Rodgers is not going anywhere. I think his contract precludes him from even getting out from under until like 2022.
Somebody say, I think he's just 2 or 3.
He signed through like 3 or 4, but I think even like to get down to like under 20 million in dead cap, like it's just, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where Favre's contract was when they drafted Rodgers. Because correct me if I'm wrong, Rodgers didn't start till year 3, right?
No,
it wasn't year 2.
4.
It wasn't like the Patrick Mahomes situation where, they
can't get out of Aaron Rodgers' deal until the end of the 2021 season, and even then, they're eating 17 million dead cap.
That's what I thought, and that's why I thought 2022 was the number. 17 mil is just too much.
His cap hit is 39 million, and he's got 17 dead cap, so they could save 20 by cutting him.
Yeah, I guess they could trade him. I guess anything's possible. It's just it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him, because you're pulling the Band-Aid on one of the best ever, and you did nothing to help Rodgers in this draft. I mean, we can talk about that too. They're almost setting him up. They're almost setting him up for failure.
Team stinks.
He succeeded, it will be in spite of them, to be honest with you. So, But listen, we'll use that quick transition to talk to tight ends, where I'm just going to talk real quick about my boy Josiah DeGara going in the third round to those Packers as their second quote-unquote skill position player added. We're not going to count Love in that first round. He did go and get A.J. Dillon, who we'll also talk about in a minute. But my boy got draft capital. I was so happy. I mean, they reached literally through the heavens to pick him unnecessarily, but they picked him nonetheless. And I'm going to have a lot of DeGara, it seems like, in my tight end premium leagues because he's still going to be devalued. No one's going to care that he went third round to the Packers. No one's taking back in this draft. I'm interested, but any of these tight ends, in your opinion, land in a spot that made you go,
The one I really liked, who I like, was I think my number one very early in the process, then fell down a little bit, and I was back up to number one, Adam Troutman, going to the Saints. Rookie tight ends don't produce much. Breeze, I think, has a 2-year deal. I don't know what that offense is going to look like without Breeze, but the tight ends in New Orleans have a history of producing. I think that's the best spot available, for one of these young guys. I just wish Breeze was 10 years younger to fully exploit that. But I loved where Troutman landed. Other than that, boy, pretty big shit show across the board as far as talent and landing spots. The Bears got their 10th tight end, and Cole Kmet was the first one off the board. Not very intrigued there, but Albert O is buried behind the guy they drafted from Iowa last year. Who's I mean, unless they're going to run a bunch of 2 tight end sets, which is certainly possible, except they have a ton of wide receivers now. And then Harrison Bryant, who I liked, he went to the Browns, and he's buried now behind Njoku and the guy from Atlanta. So nobody got a really great landing spot. The talent already wasn't there. So to me, it's Troutman by a pretty sizable margin, and then there's everybody else. But unless somebody becomes such an amazing value super late in my rookie drafts, I'm not interested in anyone here.
Yeah, I mean, Troutman had to be the big winner. Going late, round 3 to the Saints. I believe they traded back in.
They traded up to get him, yeah.
Yeah, traded up to go get him. Jared Cook's not a lifer. He's still going to be the tight end 1. Like you said, tight ends take 2 to 3 years. Troutman's definitely going to take 2 to 3 years coming from Dayton, low level of competition. He needs some help, but he's pretty freaky athletic. His 3-cone was quite memorable, all things being considered, in a shitty 3-cone combine. But he's still a guy you're going to have to sit on for a few years. And correct me if I'm wrong, John, you didn't even reference the first tight end drafted, did you?
I said the Bears took their 10th tight end.
Okay. Sorry. I was looking down to try and get my pieces. I didn't hear Cole Kmet's name referenced. The Bears just continue to commit all the resources possible to the tight end position. I mean, I've told Ryan Pace that, on this podcast, if he needs help with the position, just reach out. I'll be more than happy to consult on successful tight ends at the position and how to stop burning money on the Trey Burtons and the Jimmy Grahams of the world, but haven't seen a voice message from him thus far, so they will just continue to throw darts at the position. He does have the capital. He'll be probably their starter next year. I don't know what Graham's contract looked like. I know it was a 2-year deal, but it's probably a glorified 1-year deal to spread out money. So he'll have a shot next year. He's got to be 2, but I agree Troutman is by far the biggest winner here. He was your 1 at some point. Like you said, I think he was in my top 3 the whole time. Never got to my 1 because I still value level of competition, but he's a big athletic guy and a great scheme. So kudos to you for having him up there. The guy that hurt me the most who was my tight end 1 pre-NFL draft was Hunter, undrafted free agent, Detroit Lions, Bryant. Not only did they just eliminate him from my memory, it was literally like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet, and they just snapped and poof, Hunter Bryant doesn't exist anymore.
We are now joined by Andrew Burke.
Get up.
What's up, guys?
There he is. I looked up and I saw the yo. I don't know. It doesn't timestamp when that came in, but welcome to the party.
Yep, on the road. Doing my essential working duties.
Hey, someone's got to do it. Burke, we were talking about tight end. We had already got through quarterback, so you missed all the useless pieces of information before we get to the fun stuff. But said Troutman was a clear winner at the tight end position going to those Saints, and it was a whole bunch of nothing other than that. Redundancies, Harrison Bryant being stuck behind two, notable tight ends, Albert O going behind Fant, although he does get reconnected with Drew Lock, so who knows what that looks like long term, and not much else. You got anything to add?
Not really on tight ends, man. I'm glad I didn't miss the running backs. That's where the juice stuff is, and the receivers. So I'll leave the tight ends to you, Walk. I know you got them down pat. So I came for the running backs and receivers.
My man, as stated before the draft and verified through the draft, this was a shitty tight end draft, and I'm not going to be prioritizing any of these guys, even in tight end premium. I do still think Troutman has a ways to go. By far, I think he's the top tight end, but I will not be prioritizing him in any league. But as with quarterbacks, we started talking far too long about these positions, what everyone wants to hear about. Let's get to the sexy. We're going to go into those running backs right now. And boy, was there some interesting decisions made in the NFL draft. And we're just going to have to start on night one, where Brett Veach reaches out to Pat Mahomes via text and says, just give me a name, Pat. And he writes back, Clyde. And boom, they're like, yeah, you can have him. Why not? We don't have any fucking holes on this team. We just won the Super Bowl. We're just going to give you this, I don't want to say system back because it would probably be slightly insulting to Edwards-Helaire, but this lightly 1 year of production in a hyper-efficient LSU all-time record-setting offense type player that I still think only averaged 5 yards per carry. I think I'm going with this. I'm not as high on Edwards-Helaire as everyone else, but he landed in the spot where everyone wants the running back to land, where Darwin Thompson got propped up every draft year. Every running back that signs with Kansas City gets a shot, from the Dynasty community. And now it's Edwards-Helaire's turn. Is he your 101 in PPRs right now? If he isn't, go ahead and tell me who is, because there's only one other choice. And then we'll dive a little bit more into the rest of these guys. But, let's start at the top.
He's mine. I bumped him up to 1 following the draft, and he was 3 pre-combine. I bumped him down to 4. He was still at 4, and then on draft night, he became my number 1. Put my money where my mouth is. Did have a draft start yesterday. Had the 101 in that one. A trade for Antonio Brown, by the way. I took Edwards-Helaire, Superflex best ball. So he is my 101 right now.
My question is, why do we do pre-ranks before the draft? No one had him at the 101 for the running backs or whatever. And now after the draft, it seems that the whole community values landing spot over anything, even talent at this point. Am I wrong?
You're absolutely right.
You're not totally wrong. Some people had him. There were a few people out there that had him at 1, and people were making fun of him on Twitter. Some people had him number 1 coming out. The thing is, it's that landing spot. If you rotate it around and he goes to the Rams, for example, no. But whoever, you like Walken mentioned with Darwin Thompson last year, whoever ends up in this Chiefs Andy Reid system as their running back always gets a huge bump. So for a guy who people were already, usually on the tail end, but in their top 5, it's not a huge stretch to go to 1 from 5.
No, and Burke, to your point, the one position, in my opinion, that realizes this type of volatility is the running back position. My receivers didn't move much at all post-draft because I think they can overcome landing spots. Look what A.J. Brown did. Everyone death to A.J. Brown last year. We ended up Titans offense. Look what happened to Corey Davis. Who even knows who their quarterback is? A.J. Brown just came in and blew up the league, and now he's a perennial wide receiver 1 in dynasty startups. But if you don't get the capital or the landing spot as a running back, you're going to disappear quick. It's just a fact of the matter. And the Chiefs offense saying, yeah, we're going to commit a first-round pick to this guy in Patrick Mahomes' super max window, and that's who he wanted. This kid's going to see 80 catches in his rookie year. He's going to. I mean, he's literally going to be like a CMC light in this offense. Damian Williams isn't going to disappear, but they're going to use Edwards-Helaire. You don't put the first-round capital on him unless you're Pete Carroll in Seattle, and don't automatically insert this guy.
That's where I was going to go. It's like, what about Penny?
Yeah, I mean, that was me.
I don't know.
Penny.
It just makes it tougher because I had the 101 before the draft, traded it away. But if I were to keep it and we were to draft, I thought I was taking Taylor no matter what. And now I think I've seen him around like 6 going to Superflex League.
Listen, it all comes down to need, but Taylor is he's still my 101 personally. But it's a coin flip. I mean, I'm not going to argue with anyone that wants to put Edwards-Helaire up there. I mean, especially in a PPR league. In one of my leagues, I actually traded 104, 203, and 211 to go up to 102, and I have 101. So I'm taking them both. I took the decision off the table for me and said I'm going to use some of this capital, and I'm just going to get both guys so I don't have to decide, because that would have hurt if I had to actually figure that out. So I removed myself from that equation, because I don't think there's really much argument that they're 1 and 2 in a non-Superflex league. Any disagreement there?
Not for me.
None at all. I mean,
you couldn't hear. Burke was shaking his head no on mute from the car phone, so I would have conveyed the message. All right, so we're
the guy I like though is Detroit, the Detroit guy. Oh, so Swift went there.
I don't. Yeah, Swift went there. I don't love the landing spot because I think Patricia's an asshole. I think it's kind of the same spot as it's the Jets West in my opinion. I don't love there's just a lot of head scratching and confusion sometimes with Patricia and some of the decisions. I don't think it's going to be Swift's job right out the gate. I think Johnson's going to have a role, whether it's just as the passing down guy or vice versa. I think he's going to compete for touches, especially earlier in the year. I don't hate him, but I wish he went someplace else.
Yeah, he was going to be the next name up. NFL.com had him as a top graded back on their prospect class in the draft tracker. And I like Swift. I mean, you asked me before I finally came to Jesus on Jonathan Taylor. DeAndre Swift was my back one in this draft class. And I've heard a lot recently about the Lions and the landing spot. And we all know I'm not team carry on. Never have been, never will. Still willing to sell them for pennies on the dollar. Burke, listen up. You're going to take him whether you like it or not. And he's just going to be a change of pace guy, carry on. I don't even think he's a better pass catcher. There's nothing that Carry On Johnson does better than DeAndre Swift. Period. Point blank. End of story. And, the Lions went and spent high second round capital to get Swift. Second running back taken. Swift taken before Jonathan Taylor. Darrell Bevel's there in Detroit. And I'm not going to act like I was the one that did all this research, but I read a bunch of saying, listen, he focuses on a primary back. He doesn't run an RBBC system. I know things can change, but I'm coming around on Swift's landing spot with the Lions. A healthy Stafford. They got a decent offensive line. They got, they have quality receivers. Hawkinson's a plus pass blocker as a tight end in year 2. I'm coming around on DeAndre Swift. Still my 3, and it's a tier break to 3. But I'm not writing him off as quickly as you are, John, just because of that landing spot. I still hate Matt Patricia and think he can mess it up as much as anyone can. But I'm going to defer to draft capital, evaluation, and the OC on this one. So he's a clear 3 for me.
I did not know that about the non-running back committee, so that's a good walk. I mean, that makes me a little even more intrigued.
Yeah, but you guys, I mean, Bevel was the Seattle OC, right?
Ugh.
One of you should know this. I mean, wasn't that like the prime Marshawn Lynch years, where they just fed that dude 300 touches and dumped the ball off to him a ton?
Yeah, but he's
except
still
for on
awful.
the one.
Except for, well, yeah. I mean, listen, we all have our moments. Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a misnomer that it's going to be like an RBBC. Kerryon Johnson has proved 2 things in his NFL career: that he's not a bell cow and that he can't stay healthy. He's literally the only 2 things that he's proven in his career. He is a perfect backup. You stay over there. We're going to break Clay in case of emergency. This guy DeAndre is going to come in and he's going to be taking 70% of the running back touches right off the bus in year one. So
my number 3 is actually Cam Akers, who fell. He was my number 2 prior to the draft. I like the Rams landing spot. I don't think he's going to get a full workload. I think they're going to work in Henderson and our periodic Malcolm Brown sightings. But I like the spot. I mean, obviously they had a hole once they got rid of Gurley. And I think the talent is there. The offense, I'm not as sold on the McVay system as everybody was 2 years ago, but I'll give it another year. I think he's super talented, and the spot could have been better, but it could have been way worse. I think he's going to have a role. So I like Akers as number 3, and then I have Dobbins as my 4 and Swift as 5 right now.
With the Akers, it reminds me of last year whenever I was talking about Miles Sanders, and then Walk would come in and say, hey, it's going to take, half the year for him to get his touches and, get acquainted with the offense. But I don't know. I love Akers in LA. No knocks against Henderson or Malcolm Brown. I own them guys in a ton of spots, but I take Akers over both of those guys when it's all said and done.
Yeah, Akers is my 4. So he's only one spot below you. He was my 4 pre-draft. I like Akers. I think if he was in a better college situation, he would have been up there with Swift and Taylor as being the second running back taken. Florida State did him no favors during his time there. Progressively worse year over year, and this kid still produced. I like him. The landing spot I'm okay with because it was clear they really weren't trying to get Darrell Henderson involved last year, at all. And you don't have these guys forever, so something didn't jive after they traded up last year to get him. So they're committing capital again to the running back position. They're not going to commit money like they did to Gurley again. I think they've learned their lesson. They're going to draft these guys, run them into the ground, and move on, which is welcome to the new NFL. That's going to be every single running back PSA to dynasty drafters. You better take these guys as rookies, enjoy them for 2 to 3 years and move on before they get to that 4th or 5th year. But yeah, I like Akers. He's going to probably be the primary guy there, but they're still going to sprinkle in Henderson. They can't just give up, on that type of role. And the Rams offensive line is dog shit.
Yeah.
It's falling apart.
That's my concern. Yeah.
Gurley might have looked old last year, but that team didn't do him any favors, at the same time. He was constantly being touched in the backfield last year, and they did nothing to upgrade that. So, pick 220 could have helped that O-line a little bit instead of just going and getting another skill position player. Sean McVay is just enamored with actual athlete talent. It's like he just, he wanted Brandon Cooks. He went and overpaid him. Now he flips him over. Then he makes Todd Gurley super paid. Then he gives Jared Goff all the money in the world. Now he's going to draft running back 2 years in a row on day 2. You're avoiding some of these holes in your team like they're going to fix themselves. And I think that's going to hurt Akers, unfortunately. I mean, still my 4, but I'm not putting him above Swift. He didn't land in a good enough spot.
The year before, I know it wasn't early draft capital, but, wasn't it John Kelly as well that never saw the field besides the preseason?
Yeah, death to John Kelly.
Kelly sucked, though. That was Walker's guy.
I just wanted to mention John. I like John Kelly, too.
Oh, you're both sick.
To get him on the old podcast.
Yeah, listen, he deserved better. Yeah, listen, John Kelly's only 23 years old, so you're saying there's still a chance. He is on the Los Angeles Rams practice squad, I'm pretty sure. So the candle still burns, but don't you dare besmirch John Kelly ever again on this podcast, John. You can shit on him.
I'm more intrigued with
John Kelly's not one of them.
Sorry. Is Dobbins, what's that mean going forward for that backfield, man?
Yeah, I think he's clearly the 5. I don't know that anyone's going to – well, John might argue it, and I think I know.
I bumped him up to 4.
Okay.
The things I've been reading lately, too, is he's probably got the most experience coming out of college in a RPO system, and nobody ran RPO better than the Ravens. They'll probably grind the corpse of Mark Ingram into the ground for one more year, but yeah, next year, I love Dobbins going forward. I think he landed in a great spot. I know we took him in a league that we're all in together, and I was probably the one that was humming and hawing about it the most, but the more research I've done after we drafted him, I like him a lot more.
Yeah, we did the Ideal Landing Spots episode with Angelo_fantasy a few weeks back, and I dropped Dobbins to the Ravens in the second round, and he was on board with that, given everything that you just said. He fits. He plug and play. Drop him into this backfield with Lamar Jackson and watch him go. Dobbins ran through tractor trailer size holes because of Justin Fields at Ohio State. And I think they can scheme it similar in Baltimore. He's clearly my 5 because I think short of a surprise cut on Mark Ingram, he's going to have light usage year 1. I mean, I don't think he's going to be like the Miles Sanders, like Burke said earlier, of kind of working his way into the alpha. I think they know they're still in win now. Short of Ingram getting hurt, Dobbins is just going to be a change. He's going to be Gus Edwards plus in his rookie year. And I just don't like a running back losing a whole year of their prime in an offense. So while I still like him, and I do like him on our team, it wasn't like any of the other 4 guys we discussed were available. We took number 5 in that draft.
Well, does that mean that, Justice Hill is going to be that change of pace guy? He
Justice
doesn't
Hill,
really lose his role.
Hill may go the way of
John Kelly,
Kenneth Dixon to use the same team. I mean, I don't know if there's a role there for him. If there is, it's going to be that. He is going to be the change of pace guy if they even need it. So he's falling on my boards.
Remember the role he had last year behind Mark Ingram and Gus Edwards? That's the same role he's going to have this year behind Mark Ingram and J.K. Dobbins. I mean, unfortunately, it might be the end of the Gus Edwards experiment, although he looked great in that offense as well. I mean, he in short bursts, he looked better than Ingram, who is now a 30-plus-year-old running back in that offense. So I don't know what Ingram's money is, but, hey, maybe I'm wrong, and Ingram ends up on the cutting room floor, and they go to youth movement of Dobbins, Edwards, and Hill in that backfield. Would not surprise me, but as it currently stands, he is blocked more than any of the previous guys that we discussed from immediate production. So those are our top 5. Do we have a consensus top 6? I'm going to assume we do. We haven't talked about it before.
You know who mine is.
But, I have a strong understanding of who John's is. So, Burke, at present, this might be putting you on the spot. You're on the road. You don't have anything in front of you. But the top 5 are kind of obvious. Who's your 6 right now?
I have no clue, Walk. You did put me on the spot, man. Put me right on Front Street. Not really looking past those 5 if I can't get in until like the 4th or 5th round, because I'm definitely going receiver after that. So I think that's the clear top 5, and I'm definitely pounding receiver, honestly. If I don't get in 105 to 101, I'm hitting receiver after that.
Yeah,
depending on how the draft works out.
Sure, given how how good receiver is as well, which we'll get to shortly. John, I'm not going to steal your thunder. We talked about it before we hit record, as I've already owned and traded this individual, but he is my clear running back 6 at this point in time. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this gentleman?
The one and only Mr. Keyshawn motherfucking Vaughn. I was a big fan of.
That's where we're going with. Wild thing.
I was a big fan coming into the draft already. He was my RB6 pre-draft. He has maintained his position as my RB6. I like the guy's skill set. The only knock against him is that he's 23. I mean, he's a little older. Went to Tampa Bay, which I think is a great spot. Doesn't have much of the way of competition. Dare is never going to be a lead back. He's a nice pass catcher, very athletic. He's got a role. Ronald Jones is obviously hated on this program, so I'm team never Rojo. To me, Vaughn landed in a great spot. I really liked him coming out. I liked his tape. I think he's super talented. To not anything football related. If he drops the ball on the field, even if it's not a fumble, know what that man does? Knocks out 10 push-ups. Attaboy. So give me Keyshawn Vaughn. I like him. I like everything about him, and I love the landing spot.
Yeah, you buried the lead. You waited to shit on Ronald Jones until the tail end of that, which should have been clearly the first thing you stated about why we like Keyshawn Vaughn. And then the thing, I was not aware of this. I mean, that's some old school shit. That's like some basketball court type shit that you
love
do.
It.
Okay, I'm interested now. Keyshawn Vaughn was my 7 pre-draft. I did move Dylan ahead of him reluctantly because of what Dylan did at the combine. I'll revert. I had the opportunity to draft both gentlemen. I drafted Keyshawn Vaughn in the aforementioned draft. I traded him for A.J. Dillon plus, ironically enough. So as I got on, I got off. But I diversified, as John likes to do. Trade back, take more shots. So Yeah, Keyshawn Vaughn to me, big winner. Round 3, pick 12 to the Bucks. Now there's countless things coming out from Bruce Arians talking about, we know these guys can run, coming out of college. It's can they catch, can they pass block, like things that we may not value as highly. We've discussed pass blocking ad nauseum at this point in time, on the 40. But when you have a Tom Brady back there and you're in win now mode, and you know that you cannot trust Ronald Jones to do anything on the field, you are going to give Keyshawn Vaughn every opportunity known to man to take this job and run with it. He is a quote-unquote 3-down back that should thrive in this offense. We unfortunately lost Burke, so if you don't hear him, it's probably because he got pulled over by state troopers for video podcasting while he was on the road for his essential duties. So back to John and I, we were both just slobbering all over Keyshawn Vaughn. There's really not a lot more to say here. He was a huge winner. Like you said, you said he was your 6th, running back 6?
Yeah,
my 7. And now he's consensus 6. I mean, unfortunately, I don't think he can jump any of the guys that we discussed for capital, but he should be considered in the late 1st, early 2nd of rookie drafts. So, Burke, write Vaughn's name down, take him in the late 1st, early 2nd of all your drafts. Thank us later. It was like Deontay Johnson when I picked him on a mountain last year. They still haven't appropriately thanked me for by taking Kerryon Johnson off my hands, but we can discuss that at a later time. Let's rapid fire through a few more of these guys, and we're just going to take them by draft order specifically. A.J. Dillon did go before Keyshawn Vaughn. A.J. Dillon went a 2nd round, pick 30 to the Packers. To me, this is the last year of Aaron Jones in Green Bay. It's the end of his contract. They are not paying him. It's the last year of Jamal Williams because, spoiler alert, they drafted them in the same year. Both of those gentlemen are going to be gone. This is going to be A.J. Dillon's backfield next year. The head coach came from the Derrick Henry school of offense where you run everything through a big power back, and that is exactly who everyone compares A.J. Dillon to. There was no surprise when they drafted him that is the intent. I don't know that it's going to mean much for this year. He'll get some work. He'll take over any running downs work from Jamal Williams, who will probably be exclusively like the 2-minute drill and 3rd down type of back. It crushes the upside of our boy Aaron Jones because Dillon is going to get work this year. And barring an unforeseen change of events, A.J. Dillon's going to be starting running back in Green Bay in 2021. Whether you like him or not, and I do not like him, but like I said, I own him because he's going to have opportunity, and you have already shown they want to be a run-first offense. They're not investing in wide receivers whatsoever. They're investing in, like you said, an H-back in Josiah DeGara, who's a hell of a blocker, and a 240-pound running back with little to no wiggle at the end of the day. They want to run it down your throat in the NFC North.
You're not wrong.
Makes me sick. It reminds me back of the old days with what was his name? Dorsey Levens. They used to give that guy the rock all the time, but I mean,
listen,
the only good news for Aaron Jones. Go ahead. I was going to say the only good news for Aaron Jones is, he hasn't gotten all the work that these lead backs have gotten in, their first 4 years. So I think he's still relatively fresh. Hopefully he gets, a good landing spot after this year, but I'm pretty pissed off right now.
Listen, he's going to have to chase down bad money. Unfortunately, Aaron Jones is never going to cash in on his talents because they held him back. Well, one, he didn't get the capital because people don't see what we see in talent, so they didn't have to pay him shit. Now they're running him. They're never going to extend him there, and he's going to have to try and go find like a $5 million a year, which good for him, but like a Jordan Howard 2-year, $10 million type dig. That's what he's going to be looking for this offseason. No one's giving out big money anymore to running backs. No one's giving out multi-year deals to running backs anymore. No way. You can tell by this pick, he is 0% going to be in Green Bay next year. They're gonna use him up and throw him out, which is, we were going to talk about that. I think about a few more guys, as we kind of go through this draft. But Dillon's a guy I'd be looking at, especially in like a points per carry type league. He has a tremendous amount of value. He's going to be a 20 carry guy in 2020.
Ugh, makes me sick.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
Let's move down the line. That's enough of this A.J. Dillon talk.
Okay.
You said we're going to go draft order. Just give you my thoughts on a couple guys quick. Zach Moss went to Buffalo. There's definitely a role for him. He's probably going to pick up the touches that were vacated by the non-retirement of Frank Gore, but he's not in Buffalo anymore. I know you were higher on him than me, Walk, but he's obviously going to split touches with Singletary. Darrington Evans went to Tennessee, talking about the old stomping grounds of the Packers head coach there. They didn't use Deion Lewis. They didn't use Deion Lewis like we all thought. He moved on, but Evans is a plus pass catcher. He may jump in on those third downs in Tennessee right off the bat. I liked where he landed. We mentioned Joshua Kelly before we started recording. Walk's a big fan of that landing spot in San Diego. I would refuse to call them the LA Chargers. I think he's definitely got a role.
Some things, I just love your commitment.
Yeah, they're the San Diego Chargers. I don't care. Nobody wants you in LA anyway. Did you see they're behind the Sparks in popularity in LA County, by the way?
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So Kelly's there's a spot for him. Kind of crushes everyone hopes for what's his name? Joshua Johnson out of Northwestern.
Justin Jackson.
They
go with JJ. But you couldn't have been further from the truth.
JJ. I was close. I knew he went to Northwestern. Further down the line, P. Ryan went to the Jets. I hate anyone that lands on the Jets, but I don't think Le'Veon Bell is long for that team under Gase, so P. Ryan might carve out a role in the future, but I'm not willing to bet on it now. The two that I like actually went a little later. Anthony McFarland to the Steelers. James Conner hasn't been healthy. It's not good for us lovers of Jalen Samuels, but McFarland could have a role there as soon as this year. And DJ Dallas to Seattle because they don't give a shit about draft capital, whoever performs. That was one of the landing spots. They thought maybe one of these top guys could go early in the draft, so seeing them take a running back late in the draft, it's worth jotting down. He's definitely worth a dart throw because if he looks better than the other guys, they will put him on the field. So he's the last one that's of any interest to me in fantasy. There are only 3 guys went behind him, and they're all off my radar, including Eno Benjamin.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head, then I'll turn it over to you, Berg. Zach Moss, I still do like. There's going to be a role for him in Buffalo. Quick guess, and Berg, come off mute for this because I just want instant reaction. How many touches did Frank Gore get in Buffalo last year, John?
Touches? I'm going to say, I bet 210.
Berg.
I was going to go with 213.
Wow, I'm surprised. 179 for Gore, and he was faded down the stretch. They gave Devin Singletary all the work down the stretch. I thought the numbers are. I didn't think you guys were even going to come anywhere near 150 at the end of the day. I mean, 200 touches is a pretty decent workload, but 179, and Zach Moss is a better version of current day Frank Gore. He's going to get all the short yardage work. He's going to get the goal line work. Everyone talks about how Josh Allen steals all the goal line work. I saw something today that Josh Allen had like 5 goal line carries last year. Gore had like 12 or something like that. So it's a misnomer actually that Josh Allen just steals all that goal line work. He probably just is one scoring the touchdowns because Gore converted like 2 of those goal to go touches for touchdowns. Zach Moss is converting 8 to 10 of those if he gets a dozen goal to go touches.
Yeah,
so Moss is going to be an impediment. He is going to cap Devin Singletary's upside tremendously. Devin Singletary is going to be a 20 to 20s guy. Zach Moss is going to be goal to go type guy, clock killing situations. They want to run the ball. He's going to walk into 10 to 12 touches right out of the gate. I mean, 179 off 16 game schedule. That's like 11 touches a week. Pencil Moss in immediately for 11 to 13 touches in a run-based offense with a mobile quarterback.
Oh,
sleeping on Moss. I think you're sleeping on Moss a little bit, but
you're selling me.
Yeah, he has value, and it's unfortunate because I own Devin Singletary in a few too many places, and it kept me from drafting Moss because I don't want the Buffalo Bills backfield to make that decision every week. But I'm just going to rifle through like the guys you said. Darrington Evans, he's your guy. He's not threatening anything Derrick Henry does this year, nor do I think he's ever a bell cow. So he falls in a good situation for the Titans as kind of that change of pace guy, but they don't use a change of pace guy right now. We just said what they did to Deion Lewis. So I don't think Evans is going to do much more than special teams this year. Joshua Kelly, like I said, the San Diego Chargers actually made me happy and took an LA kid. I think he's going to take Joshua Johnson's job. Is that his name, John? Joshua Johnson?
I still don't know. JJ.
Justin Jefferson, whoever. He's going to take his job. And he'll be the primary running downs back. I mean, little ding to Austin Eckler, too, for everyone that wants to believe that he's getting 300 touches this year. He ain't. Eckler's not a good between the tackles running back. Show me a stat that he is. He's a amazing pass-catching running back. Kudos to him for getting paid. Joshua Kelly's going to be the running downs back for the Chargers this year. Michael Pirine, he's a Pirine, and he's on the Jets. So 2 strikes, do one more thing wrong, and I'll never talk about it again. But like you said, Le'Veon Bell next year, extremely cuttable from that contract. And Gase is doing that. The day that he can get out from under that Le'Veon Bell contract, he will be having a press conference with a giant pair of scissors like he's doing a ribbon cutting for a new business, just cutting up Le'Veon Bell's contract. So kudos to him. He's going to have upside. Anthony McFarland, too small to be a bell cow back, 5'9", 208. He's kind of got like a Devonta Freeman build, and Devonta Freeman was an absolute exception to like every single rule of how to be a bell cow running back, and also took an absolute beating while he was productive for like a year and a half in the NFL. So I like the landing spot because James Conner isn't good at being a professional running back. It's time to see what else we got. It's obviously not supposed to be Jalen Samuels. Benny Snell sucks. Anthony McFarland's going to get opportunity this year. DJ Dallas, whoever knows in Seattle, throw a dart. They took him in the 4th round. He had decent tape at Miami, but I still think Travis Homer is a spirit back. Travis Homer was the better back in Miami a year ago when him and DJ Dallas were there, and now they're both in Seattle. They get to hang out after the stay at place is lifted, but he might just move into Travis Homer's house because DJ Dallas might just be in Seattle for a year or two at the end of the day. That's where I sit. Burke.
Not much to add. You guys definitely killed that little tour of the running backs. With the Dallas stuff, we'll have to get Mr. Cheney on here because it was quite a few years ago. It was early in training camp, and he gave us that Chris Carson intel when he was a rookie, and I went out and scooped him up off waivers, and so we'll have to get Mr. Cheney on board to see if Dallas is even worth rostering at this point. But
you're going to wait and see about DJ Dallas, but I think that's enough on the running back. Let's cut over to the wide receiver position, and the first wide receiver taken in the 2020 NFL Draft, pick 12 by the Las Vegas Raiders. It still says Oakland on here, ironically enough. NFL.com. Get with the times. John's not the only one that refuses to not live in the past. It says Oakland Raiders here, so we're going to say it. The Oakland Raiders select the fastest guy in the draft as if they channeled Al Davis himself.
Of course they were taking him first.
And went with Henry Ruggs, which seems like some people made some money on him being the first wide receiver taken. I was not shocked. They are still enamored by speed in the NFL. We all do not like Henry Ruggs. We are not going to belabor the point. I didn't take him at the 2-1 in a draft recently when I had the ability to. I traded back and gladly let someone else take Henry Ruggs. He's not the second coming of Tyreek Hill. People can try it all they want. The offense is not going to let that happen anyway. He's probably, and this is like so cliche, he's a much better NFL wide receiver than he is fantasy wide receiver. But I'm not going to rely on big plays. We discussed this pre-draft. Maybe in a best ball, I take a flyer on him just like I did Marquise Brown last year. I'm not going to want to have to make that decision week in and week out because he could catch an 80-yard bomb or he could catch one pass for 7 yards at the end of the day. Let someone else have that volatility. I will own 0 Henry Ruggs. I don't think we need to speak any more about it because I know you gentlemen agree with me wholeheartedly. So let's move on to some more topical guys. And the rest of the first round looked Jerry Jeudy, pick 15 to the Broncos. CeeDee Lamb, pick 17 to Burke's Cowboys. Jalen Reagor, pick 21 to my Philadelphia Eagles. Justin Jefferson went immediately after pick 22 to the Vikings. And then surprisingly to me, and doesn't sound like anyone that was in the know because there was a ton of rumblings about this, but the 49ers took Brandon Ayuk at pick 25 to be the 6th wide receiver drafted in the first round. John, who do you want to focus on?
I mean, I'll just give you my quick thoughts. Jeudy landed in a great spot. I mean, he's an excellent 2 to Sutton's 1. They have very different games, and I think it's great for their offense. Lamb, I'm obviously never an Amari Cooper guy, so I like Lamb landing there in the future. Year 1, I'm curious to see what he does. Reagor is probably in the best spot. He's probably my wide receiver 1 now, just due to landing spot and talent. Jefferson, I liked. I don't know if I like him to Minnesota. Isn't his role kind of what Thielen already does? Like if they traded Thielen, I would have liked him more there. I don't think he necessarily fills in for the vacated Diggs role so much. And Ayuk, who I didn't love going into the draft. I knew a lot of NFL teams had a first-round grade on him. DFS people, you know what I'm going to do next year is target whoever plays the Niners or whoever just played the Niners, go against them. Because Ayuk and Debo are fucking mean guys. Those corners are going to take a beating. The following week, give me the wide receivers playing the cornerbacks who just played the Niners, because they're going to be pretty sore after having to guard Debo and Ayuk, who I don't like either one of them so much now. That Shanahan offense is good for real football. For fantasy, it does have guys are going to pop from time to time, but they're really loaded now. Lots of different weapons. They're going to spread the ball around. I don't know if anyone's going to be a consistent week in, week out top guy, but best ball, they're all going to have weeks where they are the top guy. So it's good long term. I mean, the guy's probably got a high floor, but I don't know how high his ceiling is.
Yeah, pretty well said. I mean, Jefferson, I'm not going to act like I looked at percent of routes run for the Vikings from last year, but Jefferson is a pure slot in my opinion. And I know that Thielen has run out of the slot, but I think Thielen's going to be on the outside. Jefferson's going to plug right in to the slot day one and be there. I'm not going to say he gets more targets than maybe the tight end position. He probably should, but he's going to be the wide receiver 2 on that team. So it presents probably the most projectable opportunity right away. In my opinion, I agree with you and Judy. I think he's a great compliment to Sutton. I do think it kind of dings both of them a little bit. I don't know that you want to really marry yourself to like a double alpha type offense, because if I recall correctly, there's 5 or 6 teams that had 2 wide receivers go for 1,000 yards last year. And I think that's about commonplace. Like a quarter of the league is able to support 2,000-yard receivers. So now you're kind of hoping for touchdowns. Yeah, Drew Lock into this, which is kind of a wild card. You love him or you hate him. I like him singing on the sideline. He's a fan in me, but I could give a shit about the Denver Broncos at the end of the day. So, can he do that? You mix in a little KJ Hamler, who is a big play type guy, which eliminates some offensive series. Then you talk about Noah Fant being there, who's an ascending tight end. You did bring in Melvin Gordon, who's going to catch some passes. Short term, he caps Judy's upside. I think it actually takes a little bit of Cortland Sutton's ceiling away too. CeeDee Lamb is behind Amari Cooper for right now. He has the chemistry with Dak. Dak and Gallup seem to have a chemistry as well. They're pretty mean in a 3-wide set. I don't know that there's a better 3-wide set in the NFL right now than what the Cowboys can put in the field. And I also heard that the way that Amari Cooper's deal is structured is that 2 years from now, there is zero dead money. It was pretty much a 2-year, $40 million deal that they can just walk away from after 2021. It explains the CeeDee Lamb thing, because I think Gallup is done at that point as well. So there's no way they're going to have both of those guys after that. Either they're going to have to, exercise certain options in Amari Cooper's deal and, have that money on their cap, give Gallup the deal he wants, or they're going to transition year 3 over to CeeDee Lamb being the alpha in Dallas. I would probably say that that's the plan. They made it clear that if Lamb was there at 17, which they didn't expect, that's who they were taking, best player available, and they did. So he's going to get opportunity. Jalen Reagor for the Eagles.
Do you want to hear Cooper's contract quick before you jump into your new favorite football player?
Nothing new about it, John. Just works out that way sometimes, buddy.
After the 2021 season, he only is for the last 3 years of his deal total $12 million dead cap, and they save $88 million.
Yeah, he's gone. I mean, it was a glorified front-loaded deal. It was a phantom deal.
Yeah, cap hit this year is 12, dead cap 40. Next year, cap hit 22, dead cap 28. And then after 2021, he goes down to $6 million dead cap and salary of $20 million.
Yeah, I mean,
bye-bye.
I heard someone say, who negotiated that deal? He was reportedly, and I think confirmed, offered more money by Washington and wanted to stay in Dallas to get a 2-year front-loaded deal where, maybe he wants to go back on the market in 2 deals potentially because of the way that the cap's skyrocketing. And who knows what his motivation is, but there's a better than zero chance that Amari Cooper is not the starting wide receiver in 2022, and Lamb's the alpha, tied to hopefully Dak Prescott in Dallas. But, let's get on to the real treasure of this NFL draft, and it's Jalen Reagor ending up in the bereft with talent Philadelphia Eagles. They did it right. My boy Jalen Regals. Let's get it started in here. Ray GQ loves this dude. I love this dude. He's going to fit so well in Philadelphia. Him and Wentz are going to be magic. And they're going to get creative with him. Who knows what Jalen Hurts is going to be in this offense, but I know what Jalen Reagor is going to be, and it's going to be their feature wide receiver in a year. They're still stuck with the albatross Alshon Jeffrey contract, and who knows what you get out of him this year. Hopefully we get a healthy Djax that Reagor can learn from, but if nothing else, he takes the top off. Let Reagor run a bunch of underneath stuff and just use his athleticism. But Reagor is going to see 3 wide receiver set action his rookie year. I think he is going to be a low-end wide receiver 2 as a rookie, and he's going to start challenging for high-end wide receiver 2, borderline low-end wide receiver 1 production as early as 2021. He is my wide receiver 2 in this draft behind CeeDee Lamb. He was pre-draft. None of these guys landed in a better spot, in my opinion, than Jalen Reagor. He's my wide receiver 2 post-draft.
I mean, he's your guy on your team. I can't fault you for anything you said. Shall we move on to the round 2, guys?
Let's do it.
All right, I'll just run them down from top to bottom and give you my thoughts, and you could jump in after me. T. Higgins, first one off the board to the Bengals. Again, I don't love that Bengals system. It's a good spot for him to come along with Burrow throughout their early career here. He's all right. I don't love the landing spot. Michael Pittman going to the Colts. I was not a fan of Pittman, but landing spot and draft capital moving him up quite a bit. I moved him up. I think he's my biggest mover following the draft. I moved him up 8 spots at wide receiver. So he is now my wide receiver 11 just because I like the system. I like the quarterback. I like all that. Shenault we loved. Obviously, everyone knows the red flags with him. If he could stay healthy, he probably could have been taken in the first. Jacksonville is what it is. He's probably going to be their number 2 early in the year. Any problems you have with their quarterback situation is what it is. Hamler, I'm shocked went so early. He killed my Deshaun Hamilton love, but it is what it is. He's going to be competing with his former Penn State teammate for touches there. Chase Claypool, you talked about, I think, before we were recording. The Steelers have a track record of producing NFL quality wide receivers. They said he is a wide receiver, not a tight end. Interesting to see how he fits in with the other 3 guys they have in place. My boy Van Jefferson went second. Not a lot of people saw that coming. I had him 6th at one point in my wide receiver rankings. So I'm ahead of the curve, I think, on him. He broke his foot prior to or at the combine, so a lot of people didn't even know he existed. I'm very curious to see how they use him. The rumor is maybe they'll be moving on from Cooper Kupp, some contract stuff I haven't looked into myself. And Jefferson, a hell of a route runner, older guy, very much in the Cooper Kupp vein. Denzel Mims going to the Jets. Jets. I can't get behind it because I hate the Jets, but I do love his talent and the upside. It wouldn't have shocked me if he landed in a better spot if he was the best wide receiver from this class 3 years from now. But be it played out like it did, he's on the Jets, and I don't trust what they have going on there, but I still like the talent.
All right. You buttoned up. I mean, T. Higgins, NFL.com comp is to A.J. Green. That's a little too on the nose for me going to the Bengals because he's got a big body contortionist. He is not A.J. Green. I get that there's not apples comps, but he was the prospect A.J. Green's coming out. He's not the player that A.J. Green translated to in the NFL. They just end up wearing the same uniforms at the end of the day, but he did land in a prime spot where he's going to be tied to Joe Burrow, in, again, what I believe to be an ascending offense for the near future. Michael Pittman, his dad was awesome, so I'm just going to give him the benefit of it. He's going to be awesome as well. Laviska Shenault got disrespected, in my opinion, but he didn't do himself any favors by even participating at the combine, unfortunately, but I give him credit for doing it because half of these assholes just opted out of it, whether they, obviously no one knew that they were never going to have pro days, but, people were scared to compete in the combine this year.
T. Higgins.
Yeah, exactly. 201 T. Higgins. He shouldn't have went 201. I love Laviska Shenault. Who knows what Jacksonville is going to look like a year from now, but that's capital for him. Who knows who their head coach is going to be a year from now because it's not going to be Marone, whatever the heck. There's another M. Yeah, it's not going to be Marone, that's for sure. Their GM should be gone as well. They need to clean house literally right after this draft and start building for 2021. But I love Chenault. Chase Claypool, I still contend he is a tight end and will never be – he's going to get a tight end designation at some point in his career. He's Darren Waller. He's not Calvin Johnson. That is absolute insanity that people put that together. Kudos to you on Van Jefferson. I took him in the third round of a draft solely because of you. We had this conversation pre-air. You were the Terry McLaurin guy last year who I hated. I was right because everyone was talking about how he was going to be a first-round draft pick. Remember, even Mel Kiper came out last year and was like, Terry McLaurin's going. I was like, no, he's not. There's 0% chance that happens. He went, the third or fourth round. The other guy who proved true on that this year was Denzel Mims. He had a massive combine. Everyone started, sucking him off every second they could about how amazing he is. He was wide receiver 13 and almost wasn't a second-round pick and ended up with the Jets. So let's pump the brakes a little bit. The guy had upside. He's a Baylor wide receiver, huge knock right out of the gate on Baylor wide receivers. He does land in a situation where he could be the wide receiver 1 this year because Crowder's a slot guy, Perriman's on a 1-year deal. Land in a great situation, but again, valued accordingly as 13. He's probably the bottom end of my top 10 of wide receivers. Has some upside, but I'm not probably going to land Denzel Mims in a lot of places. But I want to get off your boy Van Jefferson. I've heard the same, that Cooper Kupp might be on the move because they got to stop just giving out big contracts to guys. Once in a while, you just have to be one to move on, hit on a guy, max him out, and move on because they got too in the moment with all these contracts that they were handing out to everyone and their mother of skill positions. And you got to believe that you can develop talent and move on from some guys. Pittsburgh's already talking about they're not going to re-sign Juju, and they're drafting other receivers to put behind them. We just talked about Chase Claypool. It could happen, and Van Jefferson could be their big slot as early as next year. I would assume so. Again, big kudos to you for that. Hopefully it pans out since I do have a share, and I'll probably end up with a few more. We can't go too in-depth with the rest of these guys, but there are a few names that we'd be remiss if we didn't discuss. Antonio Gibson still listed as a wide receiver on NFL.com. I believe he was announced as a running back by Roger Goodell at the NFL draft, going pick 3-2 to the Redskins. There's not a lot in that wide receiver room for him to overcome if that's kind of where they're going to try and develop him. There's really not a lot of running back either. They might have a lot of names. They added a lot of guys. But pretty much Geis, the corpse of Adrian Peterson, who still finds a way to put it together. Bryce Love, who knows what he's going to be. And then I know they signed a couple other guys. They went and got Peyton Barber. They went and added
Chris Thompson.
No, Chris Thompson's gone.
Oh, is he?
He's on the street. They brought in another pass catcher running back whose name is escaping me. The kid from Seattle. The little guy from Seattle. Had like a moment in the sun. Little guy. Drawing a total blank. But McKissick. Boom, J.D. McKissick. So there's a lot of names there. They had a day or two of relevancy, but Gibson is better at catching the ball than all of those gentlemen. So interested to see what he is. Lynn Bowden, again, he's listed as a wide receiver here. I've already heard rumblings that they're going to use him at running back to be kind of a change of pace guy to Josh Jacobs. I'm interested to see what they do with Bowden. That dude was an everything at Kentucky. We love Brian Edwards, pick 316. I believe that Brian Edwards will be the top wide receiver on the Raiders out of this draft class. Henry Ruggs, Lynn Bowden, Brian Edwards. That's how they were drafted. I would flip them as far as dynasty relevancy is concerned. I got Edwards in the early third of a draft recently, and I am giddy about it. If he didn't break his foot, he would not have been there at 317 for the as still listed Oakland Raiders. Devin Duvernay lands in an amazing spot with the Ravens. Not a lot of depth there for him to overcome to be relevant. He is an explosive guy. And that ends the third round. We're not going to get any deeper than that, even though there is some names like Joe Reed, who I love, that went to the Chargers. Your boy Antonio Gandy Golden, who went to the Redskins as well. So, again, not an insurmountable depth chart. But pick one or two guys there to slobber on, John.
Real quick, Gibson and Bowden both went kind of the back-to-back wide receivers in the third. They're just great weapons. I don't know how the fuck either team is going to use either one of them, but just to me, they're great best ball picks because Gibson was super explosive. He what did he score? A touchdown every 11 touches or something ridiculous in college. So he's a bit of a do-it-all guy. Same thing with Bowden. You can't necessarily lock either one of them into a spot, but I think they're going to be productive on a per touch basis. So I do like them in best ball. Edwards might as well be my boyfriend at this point. I'll go a little deeper just to mention a few guys. You mentioned Devin Duvernay going to Baltimore, which I did like him. I'm surprised he went in the third. But for me, Baltimore took James Prochet in the sixth, and he's a guy I'm a huge fan of. I wouldn't be surprised if he ended up being the better of the two as a pro. They do have some needs at wide receiver, so I'm keeping an eye on both of them. Going down a little bit more, I like Quintez Cephas at Detroit. We talked about that in the draft we had. And then the Eagles, they did go Rager early, but don't sleep on John Hightower and Quez Watkins. I prefer Hightower of the two, but I like both of them and really like Hightower.
They prioritize speed.
Yeah.
One, Rager is a lot faster than he tested. He even said he put on a ton of water weight, so he would be bigger and didn't explode. I mean, I think it was a 4.45 still for Rager, and his game speed is tremendous. But those two guys are lightning in a bottle, and we need that influx into the offense. So I'm there with you on both. I was very happy that we circled back on wide receiver and took a couple more shots with those type of guys. Listen, for Antonio Gibson, I think you said a touchdown every 11 touches. It was a touchdown every 6 touches.
Jesus.
He had 12 touchdowns on 71 touches, 1,100 yards average, 15.5 yards every time that ball was in his hands. That's insane. 38 carries and 38 receptions, 33 carries. So not a ton of uses, but just unbelievably explosive. Hopefully the Redskins are creative enough to leverage that type of ability, because we were both big fans early on. He got the capital. He got drafted in the mid-second round of a startup draft that I started on Sunday, which I think is still a little high.
Yeah.
In a super flex, liking a guy or not, you're making assumptions there. We both like Brian Edwards. We don't have to speak any more about him. Prochet, I do agree with you. I mean, you went a little down the board on him, but again, those Ravens, Marquise Brown, lid lifter, and it's nothing else. I mean, Miles Boykin may or may not ever be a thing. Willie Snead saw meaningful snaps in this offense last year. They just traded away Hayden Hurst, so they're one less tight end, that they can run that 12 personnel all day. They do have Boyle still, but I think they're going to incorporate more wide receivers into their offense. Prochet might slot better than Duvernay. I think Duvernay has more upside than him, but both worth dart throws. Like either of them could be the wide receiver 2 in a Lamar Jackson offense, which any given week could present tremendous value. I just don't know which one it might end up being, but those are some value guys. I mean, listen, we're talking about third round picks. We're running down to, looks like about wide receiver 18. If I'm 15, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 wide receivers taken through round 3 that I can't really find tremendous fault with any of them at the end of the day. They're worthwhile even through day 2 or round 2, round 3 picks in dynasty drafts. But you referenced this in some messages back and forth, text messages and our DM string and all, but about how it gets ugly quick after that. And you're just throwing darts on some guys probably pretty much after the third round, even in Superflex, because, as we said to start this podcast, there's really only 3 sure things to quarterback position, and you're hoping for the other 3, but there's really only 6 draftable quarterbacks. There's not a lot of tight ends. So, I mean, you're still talking about 24 running backs and wide receivers that are compromising the first 3 rounds of a 10-team league. I mean, shit, for 12-team league, you're only barely getting out of the second round with these guys. Yeah,
I'm always advocating trading down and getting more darts to throw, but this is a year. Maybe take some of those later darts and try to move up into that second if you can, or first if possible, because the third round to me is a fucking ghost town. The top of the class is already gone, and then the guys in the third you don't really like, but you'd like them as a 4th or a 5th, like throwing darts. So to me, I'm getting in IDP. Obviously, it's worth a lot more because I've done that too, and the third is still chock full of players. But yeah, these offense only and Superflex, get out of that third. Either move back and get some early 4ths, or move yourself up and get the second. Because to me, the third is full of you're doing a lot of shrugging and head scratching when you're on the clock.
Yeah, you're inevitably going to be reaching and are going to be dissatisfied at the end of the day. To your point, if you can move back and get more darts, take them, because there's going to be a James Prochet that ends up being something out of this draft. People aren't going to know about Van Jefferson, even though he went in a late second round, who may slip into the later rounds of your draft. Lynn Bowden is a mystery. He could be everything. He could be nothing. And at the end of the day, guys that I like Joe Reed, there's not a lot in that Chargers depth chart that says he's not their wide receiver 3 today. I mean, it's Allen and Mike Williams. I don't know anyone else literally on their roster right now at wide receiver. So he's an athletic lunch pail guy who is going to come in and work his ass off on that team, and who knows what he can be. But yeah, I'm not taking him in the third round. You're right. Fourth round, fifth round for Joe Reed. And then
he's already number 3 on the Our Lads Chargers depth chart.
Well, he should be.
Yep.
He's a get off the bus guy. He deserves it, in my opinion, having never even practiced for the team. So that just shows you where their chip chart is. And he's a guy, I don't want him in the third round, but in the late fourth, if I move back and I end up being able to get him and Prochet instead of taking who am I going to shit on right here? Even Devin Duvernay, who had capital.
Yeah.
I'll take those two over Devin Duvernay all day.
Yeah.
So lesson learned. If there's a breaking point, if you're beyond really the second round of a standard draft, move back in that third. Find someone in the late third who wants to give you their third and fourth, or third and a future third. Move back. Acquire some 2021 capital, and you're still going to get a comparable type player with that late third round pick. Take the early fourth to go back a full round and take a 2021 third, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed at the end of the day.
No, sir.
All right, we just crushed this long, and this is going to be fun at the end of the day. We said too much. We probably didn't say enough.
There you go.
Say enough about Antonio Gibson, but we love him. He's ours. He's no one else's. No one else can have him except maybe the Redskins because they actually drafted him, but he was ours before everyone else's. Keep your hands off our boy. Brian Edwards is John's boyfriend now, we learned. So I guess I can't claim him anymore, but I do still love him as well. So I'm going to send him Valentine's Day cards at the end of the day. But I'll let you have him. Van Jefferson is all yours. There's no arguing that aspect. I'll take Laviska Shenault and Jalen Reagor. Oh, that's okay. Those are my guys. They'll higher up. You're a value guy. I'm a name guy. So we'll see how that all shakes out. But for myself, for briefly, Andrew Burke on the road to perdition, and John Dabari, we are the Fantasy 40, and we are out.
Ow.
When we were in the DM, I took A.J. Dillon and Brandon Ayuk. I don't like either of those guys whatsoever, but it was just so much value, and who knows what that 2021 third is going to be. But now I'm sitting there like, was I just trading back to trade back?
Same with my man Van Jefferson.
Yeah, I still can't figure that out. I get what you're saying about him. He's going to be Terry McLaurin for me again, a guy I truly just don't believe in, that I'm going to end up drafting a few places because of you, and hopefully it pans out. That's what I'm hanging my hat on. Is I don't see it. Like, I get the early production at Ole Miss, and I guess he moved to Florida because he was going to get blotted out by the son of A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, in Ole Miss.
Rojo's just fucking garbage, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, that's not getting cut out.
That can be the outro.
That's going to be the whole podcast. This just in. We were right.
Yeah.
Talk to you next week.
Surprise.